in terms of the human relationships, the juxtaposition of one person to another, the form and the content.
All right, why don't you knock off the bullshit and get to the point?
Hey kids, it's time for Pizza and Pop Culture with our Rogues Gallery of Talent. Coming at you on location from Eastside Pizza in Wallingford, Connecticut. Now serving up geek pizza with extra cheese.
And welcome, Episode 8, Pizza and Pop Culture. And we are not virtual, we are actually in real life today.
Yes.
Back at next door to Eastside Pizza, and maybe next time we'll actually be in the room. Woo. In the room with the boys, the pizza boys, the pizza geeks. This is Pizza and Pop Culture, Episode 8. Please be sure to visit our website, pizzapopculture.com, and follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. And remember, we've got social media out there, Twitter and Facebook. So thinking about what we wanted to talk about today, let me introduce everybody first. Sorry. So we got Paul.
Hello,
Paul
how
Heriot.
are you?
Paul Heriot, how you doing?
I am doing good, Alan Spaulding. How are you?
I'm just Ducky. And we got Angelo Alexopoulos. How you doing, Angelo?
Good evening, everybody. It's so good to have everybody in the room again.
You know what part of it I think is that I hear myself and I just love that. Those luscious, lucid tones, those dulcet voice of mine.
Hey now.
Hey now. And we got Mr. Peter Bradley.
Why, hello there, Ren.
I can never do voices very well. And we have Mr. Jude Breidenbach.
Angelo, the chicken parm is amazing.
Excellent.
You know what? That's a good point. I ordered a pizza for the first time in
Look at this.
3 months.
This is magic right here. Look at that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of love in there.
Has it got a crispy crust?
Oh, it's great.
That's big and awesome.
I'm just going to wave it around the table.
Ooh, stop it.
I got my pizza. My pizza's good with extra sauce. So
The sauce is boss.
the sauce is good.
This sauce is good.
What are we talking about today, Pete?
All right. On June 7th of this year, Cracked.com, which lists itself as the internet's only comedy website. On June 7th, they had a PictoFact article entitled "Ways That the Film Industry Will Likely Change," and is by someone named Zanati Botez. If I butchered that name, I do sincerely apologize. Zanati Botez. And they listed 18 different ways that they predict that the film industry is going to change post-COVID.
Wow.
For example, number 18 is be prepared to see many virus-themed shows and movies hit our channels. Apparently, things like Netflix has a series called Social Distancing coming up. Disney's Freeform channel has a rom-com movie called Love in the Time of the Corona.
Oh, my God.
Number 17, we're likely to see a lot more virtual productions, much like The Mandalorian, where it is a virtual set, because this is going to reduce air travel and making it easy for people to get together around the globe, and it allows for social distancing.
We're getting a little crazy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Has this happened before? Has the entertainment industry? Well, it has happened before, right? It has been affected by world events. When we have World War II, when we have World War I, when we have the Korean War, we've got MASH, we've got the civil rights movement, and then we have shows like The Jeffersons and All in the Family, and they address these racial things. Is that what we're talking about here?
I think you're right.
We can go in that direction. How many movies back in the day were about communism? They are inputted some kind of communism in there, and you just didn't know it.
Yeah, or the Cold War.
Right.
In the 50s.
You're right, Alan, because how many films during the time of World War II were being made about the war, and how many came out subsequent after World War II, even to this day? There are films about World War II still being made.
That's true. Like we just talked last time, Midway was redone from the original Midway. Right. I guess the question is, what do you think about that?
Well, Invasions of the Body Snatchers was pretty much what? Wasn't that based on pretty much communism taking over?
Just about every science fiction film in the 50s was about communism.
Right.
And a lot of our favorite television series, including Star Trek, the original series addressed a lot of this kind of stuff. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Pete.
No, not at all, not at all. Another point they bring up is that the period between a movie's theatrical and digital release might shrink significantly.
Like it hasn't already.
Yeah, it basically,
Regardless.
with studios not having to share cuts with the theaters, we might see more direct home releases in the future, especially low to mid-budget movies. This way the studios can recoup their losses a lot quicker.
Yeah, and I'm gonna guess that, right. Well, you've already said it. Money. It's all about money. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. No one's motivated to do something like that. But thinking about people going to the movie theaters.
Yeah.
Those of us sitting here around the table and that are more worldly wise, more enlightened, more daring, more brave. We're not so concerned about not wanting to go out and see the world right now. There are people that are worried. They are scared. They stay at home, and I can imagine if they have theatrical releases, they're not going to go to the theater. They're going to wait. So, yeah, I can see the studios doing all kinds of weird things to treat those audiences.
Well, I'm also curious. Like, I don't know too much about movie theaters, but are they franchise owned? Is that the idea? I mean, there's no corporation that owns theaters, right? How does it work? Is it sort of like a franchise? where
Some of them are franchise owned. They are chained like AMC.
Yeah.
Whereas others, like the movie theater that's here in Wallingford, Connecticut, is an independent.
So I'm curious to know what that's going to be like. Whether those theaters that are corporate owned are going to stay open, and the mom and pa might, or the franchise owned, they might, they might be gone. Who knows?
I mean,
I
you're
tuned it out of my mouth.
You're totally masticating while we're on the air. That's one of my major pet peeves over there, Jude. These are chewing.
making mouth noises.
Yeah. Sorry, Pete.
Okay, we got another one. Seeing the comeback of the mid-budget movie. Movies coming in between 25 and 70 million are most likely going to be original content for older audiences. The examples they give are Foxcatcher, Knives Out, and Vice.
I've seen Knives Out.
I saw it too.
So
I've seen all of those.
Break it
I've
down
seen
for me
all of those.
because I didn't quite get
Basically,
what you meant.
these movies didn't cost a considerable amount of money, and they're for an older audience.
Yeah.
They're not your Trolls. They're not your Pixar movies. These are movies for an older audience, and they didn't cost much. These movies have, according to the article, have long thought to be a dying breed. But earlier this year, Warner Brothers created Warner Max, a division entirely focused on mid-budget films for streaming.
You see a lot of movies, Angelo.
Yes.
How many movies? Did you post somewhere how many movies you've watched?
Almost 140 so far this year.
140?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just from the beginning of time movies, not new things that you haven't
Some
seen.
new, some, from, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
How do you feel about what's happening, what the studios are planning to do?
First of all, I can't wait to go back to the theaters. It's
therapy for somebody.
As long as it's,
Yep. Some
it's safe for everybody to be there, I can't wait to get back.
Just to set the expectation in the stage here, we're all sitting around the table, and there's only one of us wearing a mask.
Right.
That's the guy that wants to go back to the theater.
Yeah,
But for Angelo,
absolutely.
it works. It looks cool. It looks
Yeah.
badass. He looks badass right now.
Wicked.
The last time I was in the theaters was last August, so I'm kind of itching to go back.
Yeah. Well, I really want to go back to the theater too. I mean, I bought a whole box of Sour Dots, a case, 12 boxes in a case, so I could take it to the theater, and I can't go.
I know. I miss the movie popcorn. For some reason, you can't replicate that popcorn at home. You just can't.
Puppet in the popcorn.
That's right.
There you go.
You can't replicate that either at home.
We'll
you try it, but you can try.
Well, easy, killer. Easy. It's a family show.
It's not a surprise if you do it to yourself.
Pete,
Keep
continue.
reading.
It's not the same butter. No, sorry.
What else you got?
We're likely to see more Netflix movies on the big screen.
Of course.
Because Netflix wants their movies to have limited release before dropping them onto a streaming service. Many theaters have boycotted Netflix altogether, but big studios looking to release their films in theaters and video on demand almost simultaneously. Theaters might not have the choice anymore. They can't afford to pass up every other movie.
Does that mean Hallmark also will be on the big screen?
I don't know. A good old-fashioned Hallmark Christmas movie.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think this is good though, because this is good to see low budget films actually see what they can do. I mean, I saw a couple movies on Shudder who were low budget, but the special effects were amazing. They were like Class A effects. So I'm curious to see, they can stretch it.
I totally agree with you because big movies spend lots of money and we're really driven. We've talked about this before about what are the themes, what are the characters, what are the actors, all this stuff. You get independent films and small productions and little gems.
And they're willing to take
diamonds.
risks. They're willing to take risks.
Exactly.
They're not playing along with the corporations or what they want, the big studios want. They're like, screw it, we're doing our own thing. People appreciate that. I do.
And if you're willing to take the risk on something small, somebody else is willing to take the risk on something small and you release it into the theaters and it happens to make money, well, then everybody's a winner.
Then it gets bought out and then they butcherize it and beat the crap out of it.
Drive-ins are going to be more, even though they're more usual right now, don't expect that to be the new norm. Drive-ins are making significantly more money at the moment, compared to the walk-in counterparts at least, but the annual numbers still don't outweigh those of traditional theaters. Drive-ins are seasonal, and it's unlikely that exhibitors will jump at the opportunity to use them as a new showcase platform. So basically, they're holding things over for now, but once theaters get open and things are jumping at normal paces.
Was it this group we were talking about when we said if you want to go watch a movie and really enjoy the movie, don't go to a drive-in. If you want to go for a social experience and a great time with your friends, and by the way, catch some of a movie that you've already seen, that's a great night out. Was that this group? I read that.
I completely agree with that statement. Even though if it wasn't us, I agree with it. Definitely,
I agree with you.
Yeah, because you got kids running around. You got just people talking to each other. You got the audio isn't the greatest because you can hear it from every other car out there. I mean, it's its own unique experience. Like we go and see Jaws every year, and that's great because everybody knows the movie. And you can hear 30,000 people quoting along with the film, which is great. But I wouldn't want to see a brand new movie like that.
Right. Yeah. A lot of distractions. The movie going experience. What else is in your article?
We got blockbusters might just save movie theaters. With releasing big blockbuster movies like Disney's Black Widow and Universal's Fast and Furious #9, straight to video on demand would cause major losses for the studios and theaters alike. These movies could help lure people back to the cinema, as surveys show that a lot of people are apprehensive about turning to movie theaters once they are open. But come on in and see Black Widow, see Fast and Furious 9, see all these other blockbusters likely to entice people. Like, well, okay, we'll just wear a mask and go to the theaters.
Wouldn't it be funny if they brought it back, like just so that they can get back there, start making money again, and double features where you pay one price and you get to see a double feature?
That would
just
be
like
great.
Back in the day. Well, maybe way back in the day, where you went to a movie, you saw a serial in the beginning, right? And you saw something else, and then the main feature happens in the afternoon or something, right?
Yeah,
or later on in the afternoon.
An experience, something to they get you in there, and then you're more likely to buy stuff too.
Right.
Snack
What
bar.
happened to that whole idea? Did it just go away? I mean, I think that would work now, right? So you go to the theater, but you pay to go pretty much all day. Well, not completely all day, but you know what I mean. Just to get more of an experience.
Would they offer free popcorn?
To get people to go to the theater, why not?
Okay.
Only
Right?
with puppets, Paul.
I think it's a great idea.
To Jude's point, and I think Keith's been out there, but I don't think he's actually been to the theater. But the New Beverly out in Hollywood or in Los Angeles, they show double features. That's all they do is double features.
Yeah.
And I think it's consistently sold out every single show.
Of course, I would totally, and'd see it like a early black and white, and then maybe a main feature that's current.
Actually, the last double feature I saw was at Cinestudio. I remember because they showed Psycho and Get Shorty, which was phenomenal.
fantastic.
Nice.
But so I'm sorry, Pete. Is there more?
Oh, there's much more.
Keep going.
We're only on number 11.
Oh,
Location shoots might become focused on areas that were not contaminated by the virus that shall not be named. While filming in sound stages and interiors will most likely be preferable, since safety and sanitation was easier to control, countries with extremely low COVID numbers like Iceland are hoping to attract international production. Spain is actually set to continue filming in the Canary Islands. So instead of going to hotspot locations like the UK, You go to countries that had it under control very quickly.
And New Zealand.
And New Zealand has had no cases for forever.
They should just do a whole movie in Zoom. That's it. Just Zoom panel.
Oh, that's probably coming. Is that in the list?
No, that actually isn't. I don't
Put
believe
it on
it
the
is.
list.
Yeah.
Like people are getting murdered and the windows are changed. No.
I would not be surprised if there's some low-budget feature being shot entirely on Zoom as we speak. Probably by the time this thing hits the interwebs, there will be a Zoom feature.
That's a good one.
Cast and crews.
I'm working on the script right now.
Nice. Cast and crews might have to be quarantined together for an entire production. Experts have speculated that it might be challenging, but safer to house and isolate everyone involved with the production at the same time. Or treat it like filming at a remote location.
I'm just going to interject here. I was telling the story. I'm a Supernatural fan. I've been watching that show.
15 seasons, you said.
It's 14 seasons long.
Jeez.
I only started watching it a year ago. So I've watched 14 seasons in a year. That's how good it is for me. And so the last season is now happening, 15. And I was like, okay, it's going to drop, but I'll be patient. I'll watch other stuff. I'm watching MASH, watching, Star Treks and a whole bunch of other things. I want to talk about a show called Big Mouth, but we'll talk that later. And then it finally dropped. I got a little message in my email. Hey, Alan, Supernatural is ready for you to watch. I'm like, damn motherfucker. I'm like all excited to watch. I start watching it, and I'm watching it at 13 episodes, and all of a sudden it goes on. We'd like to suggest another series for you to watch. And I'm like, that's not it. It's not over. So I looked it up, and sure enough, they had to stop production because of the current COVID-19 situation. And they have to resume production at some point soon, and hopefully Netflix plans to release it to its, I'm sorry, not Netflix, the station plans to release it, and then Netflix will get it later in the year, the cable channel.
Did they end on a cliffhanger?
They did not. It wasn't even a cliffhanger. It was like the most inane ending.
Productions will most likely take longer and come with medical personnel.
Oh, God.
Even if cast and crew are held in quarantine, regular scheduled temperature checks, getting in and out of protective gear, and accurate testing will need to be factored in. Group scenes will likely also have to wait until multiple tests have been done over the period of time before filming them.
Well, they can always do their lines 6 feet apart, right?
Safety first.
Or the next point here actually is something that intrigues me. Visual effects could replace extras and background actors.
Ugh.
Now that's a shame.
Oh boy.
So everybody's going to look like Tarkin from Rogue One.
These are hypotheticals.
Yeah, these are all hypotheticals.
These are hypotheticals.
These are predictions.
Right.
But in some cases, it definitely does make sense. Like, for example, catering will be totally different. No more buffets. If you've ever been on a film set, you have
craft services.
Yeah, your craft services table is a constant.
Yeah, it's a germ factory.
Yeah.
I mean, you go there and you pick up a spoon, you put it on your plate, the spoon touches your plate, or your hand touches the handle of the spoon. The next, person comes along and you're FUKT.
Yep. And so we're likely going to see less of those, which certainly makes a lot of sense. So that one probably isn't as just hypothetical. Your epic and big scene movies will probably will be filmed for a while, probably, or will not be filmed for a while, probably until you have a vaccine. Because insurance companies are refusing to cover any future production halts due to onset COVID-19 outbreaks, films with crews of hundreds of people will likely not be taking the risk. So you won't be seeing your 1917 is the image that they're using here for this one.
Mm-hmm. You've read a bunch of stuff. Does this upsetting anybody?
Yeah, me, definitely.
Well, what's upsetting about it, though?
I understand with the catering, but, I just feel the virus, even though it has killed people, it isn't as terrible as, like, the flu. People are not, all of them are not dying. People are walking out of the hospitals. I was in Yale for something, and the nurses and doctors, I talked to them. I went through the emergency room. I said, where is all these COVID patients that they say on Channel 8, the news, local news was saying how bad it was in there. And the guy who was wheeling me in said, well, we have empty beds upstairs on level 7.
Right, level 7.
But it's just the fact that it's an overkill. I think so. People are dying, I know, but it isn't the end of the world.
No, but just to play devil's advocate here, I mean, it is a very contagious thing, and people are dying. Maybe I don't know what the reality of the rates are. I'm not a scientist, and I'm not privy to that sort of a thing. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, please. But you're frustrated with the controls and the restrictions on things.
True.
You'd like to see less control.
Yes.
I guess the question is that really a good thing? Angelo, you have a business here. What's your thought about all of this?
Well, I have family and friends that work in the medical profession, and they all say that it's as bad as you think it is. It's worse, probably. And that's according to them, doctors and nurses.
Right.
Keith and I have a friend from high school that's a nurse, and I see her periodically because she lives near me, and she tells me it's bad.
But the question is here with regard to...
And no, I don't blame the industry for acting the way they are. It's insurance rules everything, and you're going to have to deal with it.
Right.
Well, I also think there's tons of liability in this. Even if it's sort of a scare. Even if it's not if it's not as bad as it is, it's liability completely. Because if someone gets sick, then someone's going to get the finger pointed at them and say, "Well, you made me sick, and I can come after you, lawsuit, whatever. You didn't take precautions." So even where I work, I have to take my temperature every day and send it in, and it's really just a precautionary for if something happens to me that my company will completely say, "Well, hey, it's not our fault. We didn't get it from here. We tested them, So I think that at the end of the day, it's just covering arses.
Yeah.
That one I do understand.
Right,
I mean,
right.
for insurance, certainly.
Right. I think that's a big major player. And again, it's political, but it could be bad. I don't know. It's there's a lot of mixed information. There's a lot of misinformation, and so it's hard to believe what is factual and what isn't because again, that's a whole nother.
But you err
discussion.
on the side of caution.
That's right.
Because we're smart people. But to Paul's point, it's angering.
Oh, of course it is.
It's angering to be in this situation.
Of course it is.
It's too bad. And the world is changing. Maybe it'll be better. The entertainment.
The entertainment industry, they have to. I mean, they're taking a bloodbath right now, and they've only been down for 3 months.
Yeah.
Right.
And they absolutely have to get back on track because it's a business after all.
We have to put the lights back on.
I've got a friend who runs an arts organization, an international ballet company. Your theater, you're working together. You have to work together as a group.
Right.
There's not very many completely solo presentations. Think of all the theater. Think of all the orchestras. Think of all that stuff. Just like in the movie part of the entertainment industry, the visual arts, so to speak.
Exactly.
I mean, they're all really. It's a really big deal because you can't work together.
But I will say this. Who doesn't like a challenge? If you adapt and you actually become successful adapting, then you're the winner, And there's nothing wrong with stepping outside of the box and doing something, you're limited. You can't do something. And you're like, okay, let's find our way around it. And if you can successfully do that and your product sells or whatever, then you come out on top, really, as doing something different that no one's seen before because you did it differently.
I agree.
And Alan, tell your friend, the ballet guy.
Yeah.
Do Swan Lake, but everybody has to stay 6 feet apart from each
That's
other.
why.
That would be wild.
Yeah. That's why my movie's coming out Zoom. I'm writing the script right now.
Not to be confused.
Anybody wants to back it? I'll be. You can call me.
Not to be confused with the PBS show, right?
Zoom.
Come on and zoom. Never mind.
Zoom. Wasn't that
I
a
never
car
watched
commercial?
it, but I do know the
Zoom is a
the
great
theme
show.
song.
Have you ever seen Zoom?
No.
How about the Electric Company?
Oh, I remember the Electric Company,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah, so Zoom was on after the Electric Company. It was.
Was it?
I think it was Boston GBH as well.
Okay. Was it?
When was 3-2-1 Contact on? That had the Bloodhound Gang and
Yeah, I don't remember when, but I remember that show. Not as much as.
There's actually
not as well.
You're right. There is a movie in 2006. There's Zoom.
Was it actually called Zoom?
It's called Zoom. It was a family superhero kind of movie.
And wasn't there a movie where I should know this probably where
Sony release.
it was edited together like in blocks on the screen?
Time Code.
Time Code.
That was a great movie.
where it was basically one long continuous take,
Right.
four different panels on the screen, and you could basically follow whichever story you wanted, and they would intersect periodically.
Sonnenberg did that one, right? No, maybe not. Did Steven Sonnenberg do that one?
Steven Soderbergh, that sounds like something he'd do.
I thought he did that, no?
We'll have to look that up, and
Oh,
if you know the answer, write us back.
Mike Figgis.
Was it? Like,
Mike
Yeah.
Figgis. Thank you, Keith.
That
He's
does
engineering
feel-
for us today.
It does sound Sonnenbergish, though.
It
Yeah,
does sound.
Keith's here in spirit.
He's here, and he's not.
Spirit.
Yeah, we can't
Spirit.
say he's physically here. He's just floating around the table.
He's sort of here.
He's like, yeah.
Don't scare me.
Now we're running out of time here.
Okay,
so
sorry.
we may not finish this entire
We
list.
might have to do a part 2.
No, we can. We'll go on to our next subject, but we can put down the link to the article so everybody can see the full list.
That's a good idea.
Release dates for big action films might greatly depend on the health status of other countries, especially Asia and Europe, because why would you release some big action movie if theaters in China are still closed?
That's a good point.
So the
Overseas is a much bigger take than here.
How's
Believe
Bollywood
it or
doing?
not. Bollywood. Yeah, easy killer. Easy.
I'm just asking.
We're seeing this one already. Movie theaters are already capping ticket sales to prevent overcrowding.
Yeah, we talked about that, right?
Yeah, we talked about that off mic, but they're talking about like 50% capacity, every other seat in kind
Yeah.
of a checkerboard pattern.
Oh, okay.
So
That's good for me because I hate it when I'm the only guy in the theater. I pick my perfect seat and then some douchebag comes and sits right next to me or right in front of me. It really pisses me off.
Was that you?
Yeah, that was me. I never wanted to have the stadium seating. I was like, nah, I don't want to do it. But now I'm
No,
like,
I
yeah,
still hate
I
it.
like it.
Still
Sorry.
hate it.
No, it's all right.
You don't like the stadium
No,
seating?
no, I hate it.
I'm sorry.
I hate it. Come on, you were here for the first episode.
I
We
know.
talked about what happened,
I'm just going to pretend like we didn't talk about it.
You can check episode 1 of Pizza and Pop Culture for
the argument between
episode 2.
Angelo and
Episode
Alan.
2 as to why Angelo hates stadium seating. Episode 2. Film festivals are going online and might result in more streaming services.
Oh, that's good.
That's all we need.
So much so that they might each festival might have their own streaming service.
Ugh.
Like there
Wait.
aren't enough of
Each
them.
festival might have its own stream. Oh, like its own Hulu, its own Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Oversaturated.
Big festivals
Yeah.
might not survive postponements, but big festivals might survive postponements, but smaller ones won't. So festivals like Hot Docs, Human Rights Watch, and AFI Docs are taking it online. The Copenhagen International Film Documentary Festival has had major success when they went all digital in April.
A lot of stuff going on. Pick one last point there, Pete, that you think is really important.
Let's
we wrap it
see.
up.
This is definitely going to be controversial. If you had any doubt that Disney wouldn't come out on top, doubt no more. Disney Plus couldn't have come out at a better time because it made it relatively easy for them to adapt to changes brought on by the pandemic. Disney can pretty much dictate when and where things get releases. It is the mouse's house, and we all live here now.
Oh, God.
Wow. The mouse's house.
Yeah.
So that came from Cracked.com. Ways the film industry will likely
Mickey Mouse?
change.
I can't do it.
Thank you,
Mickey
Pete.
Mouse.
That was quite the enlightening.
It is an
pieces of information.
interesting number of predictions.
All right. So before we leave, your favorite Outbreak movie?
Our favorite Outbreak movie?
Yeah, like whatever.
Outbreak.
Okay, Outbreak.
No.
You saw Contagion, right?
Is that the one where what's her face just lays dead the whole entire movie?
Yeah, so that movie came out about 10 years ago, and they talk about social distancing in that
Yes,
film. So,
yes,
and a
you're
lot of
right.
scientists do believe, they say that that's you want to know what a pandemic might actually look like? That's the film. And it came out about 10 years ago.
Played dead the whole entire movie.
Yeah, and Matt Damon's in it, and
Yes.
there's a huge
It was
cast.
really good. Yeah, I
the
saw
movie's
that.
really good. So they say that most scientists say if you want to watch a film that accurately kind of displays what a pandemic might look like, that's the film.
My favorite. I said Outbreak as a joke. I love The Stand. I love The Stand as
That's
a
a good
book.
one.
Yeah.
That's it.
But my favorite movie is The Andromeda Strain.
I have to
nice.
agree with you there.
I love The Andromeda Strain.
Mine is 28 Days Later, if that could be called a contagion
Yeah, sure.
movie. But
Yeah.
they weren't really zombies; they were the infected. So I guess you could get away with that.
How about Vincent Price in The Last Man on Earth?
That was good.
That is a good one.
What about you, Pete?
Oh, I'm agreeing with Alan for the Andromeda Strain.
Oh,
Written and directed by Michael Crichton.
Oh, nice. What about you over there, Keith?
I don't watch those kind of movies.
Oh,
doesn't watch
jeez, he's too scared. He's scared.
all right, guys, we'll be back.
All right.
From the galactic depths of the comic book universe comes the ghosts of the stratosphere, ready to galvanize and energize your mind with the latest of comic book news and reviews. And why are you stopping?
Yes, that's much better. Hi, this is Andy Larson for Ghosts of the Stratosphere. Join me every week along with my co-hosts Rob Stewart and Chad Smith, as well as a cavalcade of fantastic comic book guests as we dish out heaping helpings of the greatest and latest of comic book news and reviews. You can find us under Ghosts of the Stratosphere as well as on our website www.gotstratosphere.com. Hope to see you soon, folks.
Welcome back, everybody. Pizza and pop culture. Just so you know, that space between then and now is for lease. Send us an email. Contact us through the website. We'll be interested in talking with you if you're interested in our break space. Just a reminder, we're at pizzapopculture.com, and we have a Facebook and Twitter presence. And follow us on your favorite listening platform. Thanks for being here with us today. We're back with Paul,
Hello.
Angelo,
Hola.
Peter, and Jude.
¿Cómo está?
And Peter.
Hi.
You gave us some really great information about what's going on and what possibly
Yeah, that was
might
a pretty
go
good
on.
article.
But as an extension of that, there's some stuff that's happened just in the last couple of days that we really want to talk about and kind of get it out there and wrap our heads around it a little bit. And one of those things involves one of the most classic movies of all time, if not the most classic movie of all time. Right, Angelo?
Yeah, Gone with the Wind. This whole thing of cancel culture this phenomenon is really kind of bizarre, I guess. You probably wouldn't have seen something like this 4 or 5 years ago, but in this age that we're living in now, cancel culture is really kind of weird. And I think the people that are kind of behind it are losing perspective of what came before us. You can't just, dismiss art for, just for the sake of the fact that, it wouldn't play nowadays. And I understand that. And I guess Gone with the Wind was the recent victim of that. And I guess HBO Max had pulled it off the network. And they're putting it back now with a disclaimer talking about, the insensitivities of the film and so on and so forth. And when I was in college and in my professor's class in film history, they showed us Birth of a Nation, and he showed it to us because of the director's techniques and how he changed the way films were being made. But you watch it and it's about the KKK, and it's like, this is really bizarre. We're watching this historical film and it's about the KKK. It was really bizarre, really kind of like, wow, this is nuts. We're watching a film about this, and that's the first and last time I saw it. Saw it because you have to see something like that because it is interesting in the way he changed the way films were made back then, and then some years after that when Orson Welles came out with Citizen Kane, people today will watch it going, what's so interesting about this? It's just the way he made the film. He changed the way that films were being made, and again, it's about perspective, and I think people lose sight of perspective, and you say, well, it was made back then. We understand why, and you move forward from that. Same thing with certain, cartoons of that era. You watch them today, you're like, wow, that's nuts. I can't believe that they actually made cartoons of this nature back then. Maybe that's one of the reasons why you don't see a lot of Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry on regular TV anymore, is because of certain parts of the cartoon that won't play nowadays,
It's a form of censorship, basically. I mean, it's censorship. Somebody is deciding whether or not the rest of us should have the right to view this. It's hard.
Right.
We don't. It makes. We talked about money. I can assume. I'm playing devil's advocate here. I can assume that the network itself is thinking about the almighty dollar and the liabilities associated with, okay, we're showing this movie. Is everyone going to hate us because we're showing a movie that has these values, which are, we want to be extinct now. We hope they're extinct now, but they weren't extinct when this movie was made. It represents the culture of the time. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with it being in existence. I like the idea of the disclaimer at the front.
Sure.
But it only makes me want to see it more by putting a disclaimer. When you say you may be not intended for mature audience only, I think, is there going to be boobs in this thing? I'm going to watch it. You know what I mean? It's like, what I'm trying to say is it's a piece of history. It's a moment in time. And I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I picked up one of the Looney Tunes, Blu-rays about a year or so ago, and sure enough, in the liner notes, they explain certain aspects of these cartoons might offend people nowadays, and I understand that because you're watching and going, wow, some of this stuff is really kind of like, no, it won't play today at all. But the disclaimer, perfect. Put up there, explain to people why, it's there, and see if you like it or not.
Well, here's the thing. If you're going to change a piece of art, okay, if you're going to go to an art museum, okay, and you got a painting like the Mona Lisa, or I don't know, I'm not familiar with a lot of classic art, but are you mean to tell me if someone goes up to a classic, priceless piece of art, they're saying, that offends me, you need to take that out of the painting? That they're going to say, well, take down a priceless painting that somebody painted how many thousand, well, it's in the hundreds of years ago, and you have to paint something out. Like, it's the same concept. It's art. So you're going to change the artistic, the way it was designed back then during that time period. It was released, I think, 1940. What was it? 1940s?
1939.
1939.
Was it 39?
Well, that came out the same year with Wizard of Oz, and it was. I guess they were the first two color films that had to come out.
Right, and that movie is considered classic movie in art. It's art. So it goes back to now actually censoring art itself that's been created many, many years ago.
Absolutely.
So in the end, that's not really fair. And the same thing. So I keep thinking of E.T. I know this is with they changed the
my favorite movie.
The guns. They put the walkie-talkies in the hands of the agents, and they took the guns out. And I don't know how that decision came down the ladder. I don't know. I definitely don't think it was Steven Spielberg. Right?
No, it was. It was a if I did this movie today type of mentality. I wouldn't have pointed guns at kids.
Okay.
Then that's why I let him paint out all of the weapons.
So maybe it's up to the creator of the art to actually make the decision whether or not he or she wants to change that aspect.
Well, in this case, Spielberg actually wound up putting them back in.
Yes, I was just reading that.
Yeah, they wound up. It was only for a limited time. You can get that special edition. Now, if you buy E.T. on Blu-ray, it's the original version. And his mindset was, this is how it was made. No, right. I would have done it differently if I was doing it today, but I was who I was back then, and this is how it was shot, and this is how the movie exists.
Yeah. With Gone with the Wind, I mean, there's no question, the portrayal of people of color in Gone with the Wind is very, doesn't fit with what we want to believe or should believe or do believe today. It should be viewed in that context. It's hard to talk about because, Jude brings up the point of looking at a piece of art, and this is of all the movies, not all movies are a work of art. Gone with the Wind is a cinematic masterstroke, basically. The Wizard of Oz is considered a masterstroke as well, but not everybody likes it. It's subjective, and it's hard to talk about whether things in it should be censored or not. The violence in the Looney Tunes cartoons. But I think that you look at this stuff, and the thing that's different from art and other schlock that's out there is that the opportunity to teach you something, for you to learn or experience something from it. That's what could differentiate and help make some of these choices. Those of us who advocate for things like non-censorship of books, To Kill a Mockingbird and other books, Lord of the Flies, from school books, from children read. These are perfect opportunities to help people learn. But in America, in the United States, still quote unquote a young country, but we're uptight, got a lot of what is it called when you're uptight and you got a lot of things that's sticking up your ass, so to speak? That's what happens here, and that's not a thing to be politically correct, in my opinion. Getting off the soapbox any second now, guys. It's just you look at other countries and they're way far ahead. They look at us and they're saying you guys are in trouble. I mean, these little things, you're making the wrong mountains out of molehills, the wrong types of mountains sometimes. So,
and there's going to be people that are going to say, "All right, we got rid of Gone with the Wind. Now let's get Wizard of Oz for the people."
Little people.
Yeah, there it is. And then I feel that All in the Family. Expect Carol O'Connor's star on the Walk of Life to be torn up next year.
Yeah, the Walk of, what is it? The Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Fame. That's the one.
Well, the same thing with cartoons. I mean, like you were talking, Angelo, about Tom and Jerry and a lot of those classics. I mean, I haven't seen any of those on TV in a long time.
Jude's right. Some people complain about the violence. I think a lot of it has nothing to do with the violence. It has to do with some of the aspects of the way certain people were portrayed in those cartoons, which is the reason why they're not shown on TV anymore. And I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah, and slapstick in cartoons can be, like the Three Stooges is different than Looney Tunes. Slapstick in Looney Tunes is like life and death. The Roadrunner and the Coyote. One keeps dying, and
right.
It gives people a false sense. I guess young people who are attracted to animated programming gives them the wrong idea of what happens when an anvil falls on your head. I get that a little bit. You got to watch Big Mouth, though, on Netflix. That'll change your views.
So did you guys talk about the Back to the Future cut, the Netflix, where they cut was it 5 seconds or how many frames?
Yeah, we talked about that.
It was Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, we talked about that last time. But another thing that happened just a few hours ago today is that you were telling us, Angelo, NASCAR banned.
Yeah, they're banning the Confederate flag from, I guess, future events. And that's a big step, for that particular part of motorsport and world because, NASCAR is huge down south. It's just huge from, Pennsylvania down. It's just a major sporting event. And for them to do that in what's been happening recently in the United States, and I totally understand it,
Yeah.
That end of it, I get. That's, it's about time.
So I asked the question, and we'll do it here on air. What's the difference between banning the flag and banning Gone with the Wind? What are the intricacies of that? And one of the things is, well, NASCAR is a private organization, and they've chosen. But what are your thoughts?
Probably because it's art. Films like Gone with the Wind aren't really made like that nowadays. So we've moved forward since then. So
agreed. We'll definitely move forward. Yeah. We don't make films in the.
From what I understand, Hattie McDaniel, she won the Supporting Actress Award
She did.
However, she wasn't allowed to sit anywhere near the rest of the cast at the award ceremony. So what does that tell you?
It's a shameful part. It's a shameful part of our history, and just thinking about it, and I have my own personal feelings about what's going on today, and I'm so irritated and angry at what's happened. But the bigger picture is that if we can learn from these examples and we can look at it and we can say we don't do that. That's not right. I guess the question is, from someone else's point of view, by us allowing it to be viewed, are we propagating those stereotypes, that treatment? That's where I think all this has its base. We'll be back.
It was the three-legged dog of comics.
It was bad.
These two gentlemen met in jail, and then when they got out, they started publishing.
It should have been mobsters instead of doing what they do in comics.
Management there was questionable at times.
Some of it has to do with people who go to jail.
We are sinners. We have corrupted the youth.
Stuff that should never have been sold to kids.
And then there was Charlton. I couldn't quite tell what they were doing.
Charlton was just a hodgepodge of weird titles.
What is this? Who am I dealing with?
John threw nickels around like they were manhole covers.
CAT TAP. They were cheap.
Hell yes, they're cheap.
They were a special kind of special, is what they were.
Printing was horrible.
You could smell them beginning to decay even as they were rolling off the press.
At one point, they actually did have to move the comics operation into a bowling alley.
It's something out of a sitcom.
We want to publish comic books in the worst way, and they did.
It's been called the street-fighting cousin of Marvel and DC. Maybe you've heard of them. Probably not. But you do know the industry legends that called it home. This is Charlton Comics. Follow at charltonmovie.com.
Oh, it's gonna suck.
Welcome back, everybody. Pizza and Pop Culture is the name of the podcast. Please visit our social media sites on Facebook and the Twitter. Pizza Pop Culture. Those are the names of the Facebook and Twitter.
Culture.
Also want to let you know that our friends, you should listen to our friends at Pint of Comics, Ghosts of the Stratosphere, 4:30 movie, Inglorious Trexperts, and the best movies never made. Those are some of the great people that are listening to us. We'd like you to listen to them because they've got some great podcasts. The nice thing about podcasts like this is that you hear many, many different points of view, and it's all information. It's all knowledge. Knowledge is power.
And free.
And it's free for now until we start charging you. We're going to figure that out. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to charge you. One topic that's near and dear to my heart.
Uh-oh. Where are we going with this?
Relax, Paul.
Adult movies. Otherwise known as pornography. Boing, oing, 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 oing. I'm making the little sign with my nipples, with my fingers pointing out. You can't see it, but it's really a visual. But seriously, pop culture is everywhere, and it's in all of our entertainment industries, including the porn industry. And believe it or not, I'm sure most of our listeners know this, but if you don't, am I right? Correct me if I'm wrong, my fellow, I was going to say my fellow pornographers, but that's not really the right thing to say. My brethren.
Brethren?
It's just getting worse and worse. Sorry.
I know. Where are we going, man?
Keep digging. So, but that industry has really affected the entertainment industry from a technological standpoint tremendously. Yes?
I will concur about this. Back when it was a choice between VHS and Betamax, well, VHS did not have any fees to use the medium. Therefore, the porn industry went with the free medium, and VHS won the tape wars. Same thing happened with Blu-ray and HD DVD. Yeah, there's a fee, or there was a fee to use the technology for HD DVDs,
Yep.
and there wasn't for Blu-rays. So that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and before VHS was film, and then video, which takes the flavor of VHS and beta. Not only that, from a technology standpoint, but how about those hairstyles and that music? Right. I mean, right now, we talk about music in movies, Paul.
Yes.
We talk about music. Now, I think I can reach out to you for a little help here. Porn without music now is really nice.
Without music?
Without music. Because before, when it had music, am I wrong, guys? When it had music, was no good.
What?
Come on, this is a serious topic. It's very important.
I'm trying hard here.
I like it
And
when
no pun intended.
I like it when
Keep digging, Jude.
Easy killer. I like it when they do like their own music videos to popular songs now. But right, Paul, back in the day, all movies, like you go to the movie theater, you'd go to the movie theater to watch an adult movie.
Right. What do you mean, like the Fairmont?
Oh, yes. This is why I'm asking you, because I'm sure that you've been. I've never been.
Never been to Fairmont?
I've never been in any
I worked
any
there.
of those movies.
Did you work there?
Yes.
No shit.
What was that
Sorry.
like?
I scrubbed the seats.
No, come on.
All right, I didn't work there.
Is that where you got the inspiration for Puppet and the Popcorn?
No.
Oh, you didn't work there?
No, I didn't work. But the Fairmont at one time, when I was a kid, you can watch Tarzan movies. Then it became, actually it was when I moved out to Wallingford here, that it got to be X-rated theater.
Right. Now, we don't have any X-rated theaters anymore. Is that correct?
Don't look at me,
man.
No, they're still
We
around.
got the interwebs.
No, they're still
where
around.
it's free.
There's actually one in Hartford. I think it's called the Art Cinema.
No, of course it is.
No,
Art
that's what,
cinema.
and it's an actual it's a beautiful theater from what I've seen on pictures online.
Sure,
but there's a balcony and it's got the velvet seats and it's a beautiful theater and they converted it into a porno theater, but it's more designed for couples to go to find other couples, if you know what I mean.
Oh boy.
No,
Oh my
I don't.
God.
What do you mean? Can you spell it out for me? No, just kidding.
Did you ever see the
Did
movie?
they have assigned
Did you ever
seating?
see the movie Swingers?
No, I never seen it.
Okay.
But can we get back to the music, Paul?
Yeah.
I'm asking you about the music. You know,
I never had any problems with the music. It was always boom, 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 and with a little cheesy organ over it.
right. But doesn't that distract from the viewing experience?
Yeah, maybe. For some, yes.
For some, okay. Angelo, I know you've been making pizzas and stuff for a long time, but come on, you must have been to the Fairmont or something like that.
Well, let's take this to another
He
direction.
said no.
Let's take this to another
I
direction.
don't want to take it in another direction, Jude.
Let's talk about what movies what movies that were released that actually had that whole pornographic period of time in a movie like Boogie Nights.
Oh, that's a great classic,
Which
right? Boogie Nights.
okay, it's not. I mean,
Dirk Diggler.
I think some of us, I think one or two people, it's one of their favorite movies, right?
What do you mean one or two people?
Is it your favorite movie?
Oh, here you mean?
Yeah.
I never seen it.
What?
You never seen
it's
Boogie
great.
Nights?
It's
I've never
great.
seen it.
Oh, talking about pornography, you got to see Boogie Nights.
Beef is really pissed at me,
Man.
I mean, Burt Reynolds is in it, and Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg. I've seen
Isn't it?
bits and pieces, so to speak. No. I haven't seen
Just
the
the
bits and
naughty
pieces.
bits and pieces.
No, I haven't seen the bits and pieces. I've seen a little bit. Never mind.
But it's won awards, and it's just based on I guess Mark Wahlberg. What was he? Dirk
Diggler. Dirk Diggler.
And it's
I know
a great
that.
movie, and it goes through that time period in the 70s where probably Deep Throat and a lot of these other movies were released, where these people took it very seriously, that they were actors, and they took their role seriously, and they took their performance serious, and it wasn't just sex on cam.
Okay, so that's interesting. So
Hey,
we're joined now by
we got a
the other
brother
Key
here.
Pizza.
Good
Good night, George.
George.
Good night, George.
George
We
just-
love you, George. Georgie, we're talking about porn. Did you want to join us?
I gotta go home.
Okay.
He just podcast bombed her.
Since you brought it up, what other movies fall into this genre?
I think Boogie Nights was really. I mean, that's the only one that stands out. I haven't seen it in a while. That's why I'm trying to remember. I haven't seen it in years. But
What's the Brian De Palma film that's kind of based
wasn't
on?
Deep Throat a movie? But
It's a takeoff of Rear Window.
Body Double?
Yeah,
Body Double.
I think that has something to do with the pornography
Yep.
industry as well. I think in the film. I think.
But all those movies portrayed, even though you think of pornography as something that's, just people on screen having sex, that these characters took their roles very seriously. That
Sure.
if they were mingled in with other actors and actresses in Hollywood or wherever, they were like, no, I'm an actor too, but you're a porno actor. No, I'm not.
So, sexuality and adult themes in movies helped to spawn the movie rating system. Remember, it was G, PG, general audiences, R, X, all that stuff. Now it's slightly developed from that. Wonder if now moving forward with current relations in our country and throughout the world, that evolves even more to kind of identify what this story is about and more warnings. I find it interesting that we can have movies and adult movies that nothing is hidden and they're okay. They're not censored.
Does anybody know why they changed? Like when we were growing up, you see a PG movie, it would say, parental guidance suggested. Now it's like PG-4, smoking, drug use, profanity, blah, 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 blah. I'm like,
because
why did it change?
They changed it because in general, they changed it because the original ratings of PG and then PG-13 were not specific enough for parents. A lot of it, especially now that there's more of a movement towards, it's not more of a movement towards, but it's more of a increased understanding. Knowledge is power, what we just talked about. So parents want to know what is in a movie that makes it PG so they can decide for themselves. A form of, say it with me, it's the C word.
Censorship.
Censorship. But it's on a parental level. I'm going to go off on a little tangent here. Remember that in this country, children are property. Children do not have rights. So parents choose for them. And that concept of property and rights and choice is built into a lot of the stuff why Gone with the Wind was pulled. Because somebody's trying to decide for us what is right, what should be viewed. Same reason with the Confederate flag for them. I happen to agree with that particular choice because it spurs hatred and violence and that sort of thing. But the movie rating industry changed those ratings to provide more information, to be more specific. And we no longer have movies that are for the public, like in a movie theater or out on mainstream cable, that are X or triple X or whatever.
But it's also the sign of the times. Don't forget, Midnight Cowboy was rated X.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, when it came out, it was rated X.
Eyes Wide Shut was rated X, wasn't it?
Eyes Wide Shut was, I think they gave an initial rated X, but they changed it. Yeah,
because they actually, I think, put objects in later for some of the orgy scenes.
I think they did.
So they digitally put in like a lamp in that orgy scene where Tom Cruise is walking through.
Yeah.
Maybe a walkie-talkie.
Well, maybe. Well, I think Keith will agree with me on this. What was the last time something on television was pulled? Was it Beavis and Butthead? They pulled it
Splash.
because no, that's Splash. Well,
They took her butt out of the friggin'
pulled
movie.
Beavis and Butthead because they kept saying the word fire. And apparently some kids were watching the show and they caused their house to burn down and they blamed it on Beavis and Butthead. So they pulled the show and they took all that stuff out and they put it back in with that stuff had taken out. The previous episode where I think Beavis was saying fire, 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 they took all of that out.
I didn't know
that.
that.
It might have been the last time something like that actually happened, where they pulled something off the network, they put it back with all that stuff taken out.
Well, how many people here have seen Caligula?
Oh,
it's a terrible movie.
Terrible.
Oh, it's
terrible.
It's a terrible movie,
It's
but I've seen
terrible, but it's still considered into some people's eyes, especially in movie classes. Because I remember we didn't see it in our movie class, but I know some people who, in their film class, that was one of the movies they had to see for some reason.
Wow.
And that was pretty much a pornographic movie, but it was more plotted, I guess.
What schools are they going to? And how
New York. Well, let me ask you a question. When you went to the New York Film, right?
I was New York Film Academy.
Right. Did you see anything like that, or they just?
No, they did not show us Caligula.
I think that was put out by Hustler.
It's considered to be a classic movie.
Produced Malcolm
for some
McDowell.
reason. In some
lot of
film critics'
cocaine.
minds, it's considered a classic.
Really?
Yes. I don't know why, but.
So nudity gets you the X, but I mean you've seen
violence.
But The Exorcist didn't get you the X, did it?
And why not?
No nudity.
No nudity. There you go.
That was one of the
but
points that they tried to make with the South Park movie, was that they deliberately increased the violence to see what was the cutoff, and apparently there was none. But when they started mentioning sexual situations or nudity, that all had to be cut out.
Right. So all these things load on why ratings were changed to. I think now the top one is mature, right? Or not rated.
And
NC-17. There's NC-17 and there's also a not rated. So not rated is still not the equivalent of X.
No, but not rated is just people going, ooh, they must show tits in this one.
Yeah, I like the boobs.
Yeah, that's why. That's nothing.
At the end of the day, what's worse, sex or ultraviolence?
Ooh, ultraviolence.
Well, see, that's
You like that?
Is it? That's the question, right?
I think parents will let their kids watch anything that's violent, but as soon as nudity pops up, they'll shut it off.
Yeah, because that's we don't want to go.
Well, has
there.
anybody ever seen a movie called Natural Born Killers?
Yeah.
I remember watching that when it came out, and I was a teenager, and I even thought after that was done, it was over the top. But that was just me. But I could see a parent, if their kid saw that. Well, and that's a love story.
I think the film was trying to make a point about the over-the-top violence and how it affects people in that film, not just to show gratuitous violence in that particular movie.
Yeah, but I think out of a lot of movies, Natural Born Killers is probably one of the most violent movies I've ever seen.
I think it's safe to say that we've exhausted this droll topic that I've brought up. I apologize for our listeners, but if you have a thought about what we've talked about today, please contact us, post us on Facebook or Twitter, Pizza Pop Culture for both. Again, we have a website, pizzapopculture.com, and we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to know if you're interested in advertising with us. We thank, again, the folks at Pina Comics, Ghost of the Stratosphere, 430 Movie, Inglorious Trexperts, and the Best Movies Never Made for being our friends.
Thank you.
And for Paul, Angelo, Pete, and Jude, I'm Alan.
Namaste.
We'll see you next time.
They killed the giggler, man. They killed the giggler! They had no business doing that. None.
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm